Good afternoon. The first item of business this afternoon is time for reflection. And our time for reflection leader today is Amanullah Sondy from the Centre for the Study of Islam at the University of Glasgow.
Ladies and gentlemen, Presiding Officer, good afternoon. You may be expecting a convoluted theological inquiry from someone who comes from an ancient divinity school in the west of Scotland. But don't worry, I have no intention of doing that. Not least because I have arrived here today not from the School of Divinity at Glasgow University, but from this city's Craiglockhart Tennis Centre, where I am officiating as a line umpire at a professional tennis tournament. So I wonder if it were possible to mix my passion for theology and tennis. Love 15. Love is the language of theology, faith and practice, but at times lost in the sea of our own delusions. As a Scot who happens to be Muslim, I grew up thinking about what it meant for me to be a Muslim in Scotland. At times, stuck between Scottish society and the culture that my parents brought from Pakistan in the 1950s. It was inevitable that those in the same position as me would have an identity crisis. Many tried in vain to create an identity. The boxed label Scottish Muslim was one which truly confused me. For there has to be a Scottish Islam for there to be a Scottish Muslim. This Scottish Muslim label is stuck between the Pakistani Islam that the first generation brought with them and the medieval Islamic utopia of the Golden Age which many preach. I found myself unable to accept any of these. I strived for my faith to be complemented by Scottish society, and for this to be accepted and, most importantly, criticised by those around me, warts and all, beyond political correctness. For it is only through reflection with the other that our own identities are strengthened. Love is a great vehicle to shape this. For me, love is the essence of the Quran, a text which for me is perfectly ambiguous, with its many shades of black, white and grey. A scripture which can quite easily support the actions of those wishing to promote love and war. For after all, it is a text, and every reader has their own way of interpreting that text. But love is a term open for multiple interpretations. Love brings with it its own challenges that we must all consider. The famous 20th century Urdu poet Faiz Ahmed Faiz, who lived in Pakistan and was from the same city as my parents, Sialkot in the Punjab, was what I would consider a progressive Muslim, seeking the beautiful in Islam through a critical inquiry into its ugliness. Faiz offers us all some food for thought on love. The self of a human being, despite all its loves, troubles, joys and pains, is a tiny, limited and humble thing, he said. His most famous poem has changed my outlook on life, titled Mujhse Pehli Si Mohabbat Mere Mehboob Na Mang, which translates, "Don't ask me for that love I once gave you, my beloved." He weaves love between the harsh realities of war, hatred and self-interest. That when one realizes harsh realities, one is unable to return back to the utopia of love or absolute ideals. That love cannot prosper in isolation to all that surrounds it. And so it is my heartfelt prayer that we are all led in our duties as theologians or as politicians in a realistic love, considering the realities and rationalities, weaving our Scottish tartan within its diverse shades of black, white and grey. Only then will our beloved Scotland win game, set and match. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a splendid message. Thank you very much. Thank you. The next item of business is a statement by Nicola Sturgeon on free personal care. The Minister will take questions at the end of her statement, and there should be, therefore, no interventions during it. It's a 15-minute statement, and I call on the Cabinet Secretary for Health, Nicola Sturgeon.
Presiding Officer, I would like to outline the Scottish Government's response to the independent funding review of free personal care published last week. I will also update members on the positive discussions that we and local government have been taking forward to address key aspects of the policy. Those discussions have been taken forward in the spirit of joint accountability in line with the principles of our Concordat. I want to take this opportunity, Presiding Officer, to thank Lord Sutherland and the other members of his independent group for their substantial and considered report. We commissioned the review to provide greater clarity on long-standing concerns about the funding of the policy. We also asked the review to look at the UK Government's decision to withdraw attendance allowance from residents in care homes in Scotland. The report confirms, Presiding Officer, that the policy has widespread support and is delivering real benefits to thousands of our most vulnerable older people. It commends local government and delivery agencies for their work in achieving these outcomes. However, the report also confirms the concerns that we and local government have raised about the clarity and the funding of the policy. It also provides us with a very frank analysis of the longer-term challenges we face from Scotland's changing demographics. In light of those findings, the report delivers a 12-point action plan recommending key areas for action in the short, medium and long term. I have today written formally to Lord Sutherland confirming that the Scottish Government accepts all 12 of his recommendations. They sit alongside the work that we and local government have been taking forward together. Presiding Officer, this government has already uprated the fixed rate allowances to older people in care homes in line with inflation from the 1st of April, the first increase since the policy was introduced, and there will be further inflationary increases in the next 2 years. We have agreed the need to take forward specific action to improve information systems at national and local levels to ensure greater transparency in future costs associated with the policy. We will renew our efforts to improve public information and understanding of the policy. We will also clarify the legislation and guidance on cross-boundary placements. We are also looking with COSLA for a way to ensure an effective performance framework for long-term care services for older people within the single outcome agreement approach. We have also agreed the need for a wider set of joint work streams to review demographic pressures and other practical issues impacting on the current and the future demands and costs of care. This work needs to start now ahead of the next 5-year review recommended by Lord Sutherland. Presiding Officer, let me now turn to the issue of funding. Lord Sutherland confirms that a significant element of the difficulties that have affected the policy in recent years arise from a shortfall in funding. Following dialogue with local government, I am therefore delighted to confirm today that, in line with Lord Sutherland's recommendations, the Scottish Government will provide